guys, and welcome back to my channel. So in today's episode of Tuesday Talks with Andrew, my coach Andrew is going to be covering a little bit of cardio. So he's going to be talking about HIIT versus miss and how you can incorporate this into your own training program. I know that we usually release these on Tuesdays, but yesterday was the 4th of July, so I just figured that it'd be a little bit better to release this on Wednesday today. So again, I hope you guys like the video, and here's Andrew.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Tuesday Talks with Andrew, what is now episode 4 of our series that we started probably, I guess, a month and a half ago. If you haven't checked out the other videos yet, I would definitely encourage you to check them out. Just to give you an idea, it's a series Christina and I started once we started working together during her contest prep and wedding prep. Just to give you guys some ideas on the program and the strategies that we're using for her prep, but also what I use and encourage with the other athletes I work with, just to give you an idea of some things that you can incorporate in your own training, and then also just to give you a little bit of background into myself in case you're interested in reaching out to a online personal training coach or a contest prep coach in the future. Anyway, this week we wanted to cover HIIT versus miss cardio and some of the ideas behind using both, the strategies that I use as far as incorporating both of those into a training program, how I choose how much of each, and why I choose to use different types of cardio. Just to give you guys once again an idea to use in your own training and an idea behind why some of the coaches in the industry use a mix of those, or let's say for a lot of people it's an either or. People will usually go one or the other. You'll have some coaches and trainers do nothing but HIIT. They really want to encourage people to do HIIT. They don't do any kind of lower intensity stuff. It's all very high intensity. Everything's interval based, but then you'll have other people that go the opposite extreme and do a lot of low intensity exercise but don't believe there's any use in a higher intensity exercise for their cardio sessions, which I think both tend to leave a little bit on the table for their athletes. With the clients that I work with, even if they're non-competitors or contest prep clients, male, female, I'll tend to use, I would say, a pretty even mix for the most part of miss, which is of course moderate intensity steady state cardio, and HIIT, high intensity interval training. I use a pretty good mix of both of those because each are going to have some pros and some cons and tend to really balance each other out. With the miss, it's of course going to be moderate steady state cardio, as the name would imply. It's going to be usually, I like to tell people, 60 to 70% of what your perceived max effort would be. So that's going to be like a fast walk up an incline on a treadmill, or a light jog, or something along those lines if you're trying to think of something to compare it to as far as the intensity goes. They're going to be longer sessions, anywhere from as short as 10 to 15 minutes upwards of, sometimes I'll have clients doing sessions that are upwards of 40-45 minutes if need be, versus high intensity interval training HIIT sessions, which are going to be much shorter in duration, more so because they are such high intensity. They're meant to be shorter in duration, and they're just not something people can sustain for a very long time. So the HIIT sessions, compared to the miss sessions, the HIIT sessions are going to be probably minute intervals. It's usually the easiest to program for clients. So you'll have 1 minute long intervals. 10 to 15 seconds of that is going to be an all-out effort, and when I say all-out effort, I really mean all-out effort. That's where a lot of people mess up when they're doing HIIT training. That's going to be a 90 to 95% of your all-out perceived maximum effort that you can possibly do. If you were doing it on a spin bike, that is pedaling as fast as you possibly can, as if someone is chasing you, and if they catch you, you're going to die. That kind of intensity, followed by 40 to 45 seconds, 50 seconds of a more moderate steady state type intensity. So you're going to do 90 to 95% of your all-out effort for those first 10 to 15 seconds, and then the rest of that minute you're going to do an intensity I'd say would be very close to what you would do for your moderate steady state. So anywhere from 60 to 70-ish% of your perceived effort. The rest of that interval is just going to allow you to recover a little bit before the next high intensity interval round. Usually, like I said, I'll do minute intervals just because it's a lot easier to keep track of, especially when you're doing cardio by yourself, and you can just put down your phone on whatever mode of cardio you're doing, or have one of those, some apps will have a timer that will automatically ding every whatever your preset intervals are. But usually I'll do those for a minute, like I said, 10 to 15 seconds high intensity, the rest of the minute was more or less a recovery time between your next round. Like I said, I'll do a pretty good mix of both of those for my clients. The biggest reason being is HIIT itself has been shown by a lot of research, and anyone that's interested in discussing this further than what I cover in this video, please feel free to email me or comment below, and I'm sure I can link some of these research articles that I refer to a lot when explaining this to clients, and then also I could go into depth a little bit more as well. But these HIIT sessions are shown to be very, very effective for increasing calorie output, which is going to obviously lead to a better caloric deficit during the week than a steady state. But with that, it's also very tough to keep up with during a week. These HIIT sessions are great, so a lot of people will look at this research as it's very effective for fat loss, so I'm going to have my clients do only HIIT, all the HIIT, as much as they possibly can during a diet. There's a lot of issues with that, but one being the nature of HIIT is so intense, most people aren't going to be able to do 4, 5, 6, 7 sessions a week of HIIT without really burning out and really tapping into a lot of recovery issues. So I'll have people do HIIT. It is very effective. The research is pretty clear on that up to this point in the history of research on high intensity interval training. If it's performed properly, it really is going to essentially help you burn or expend a lot of calories in a much shorter amount of time. To give you an idea, a lot of HIIT sessions that I program are going to be 8 to maybe 15 minutes in length. That'll obviously change for some people, but 8, 15, 16-minute sessions are probably usually as high as I will go per session, whereas a missed session, like I said, can go upwards of 45 minutes to possibly a little bit longer, but not usually with how I program. So the HIIT sessions are going to be really good for helping to really ramp up that fat loss when it comes time to add in cardio during your dieting phase, but is not something that you can do every day and really sustain the intensity that you need for it to be performed correctly, but then obviously to be able to maintain adequate recovery to go towards your weightlifting sessions and things like that. So I'll usually do maybe 2, 3, I've had some clients do 4 and 5 HIIT sessions a week if it really gets down to the nitty-gritty during contest prep and we really need to ramp up fat loss. For my non-competitive clients, usually it doesn't get that frequent during the week. But for a lot of people, I like to try to keep it up to 2, maybe 3 HIIT sessions a week, and then if I need to add in additional cardio, I will usually switch to miss and be able to fill in the gaps. If as the best way to say it, I would fill in the gaps with more miss, just because miss tends to get a bad rap because HIIT gets hyped up so much for being so great for fat loss, and you can burn more calories in less amount of time, and you can get it over with, and you can fit it into a schedule, and there's other benefits to it as well that I'll cover in a minute. But with all of that, miss kind of is the redheaded stepchild of cardio and tends to get ignored, but at the same time, miss is going to be a lot easier to complete, especially as the diet progresses and energy levels are low, you're hungry. Sometimes the last thing you want to do is perform a high intensity interval session on top of your weight training because you're already obviously very depleted and very just exhausted in general. So those missed sessions tend to be a little bit easier to complete. You can distract yourself by watching Netflix on your phone or reading, depending on what kind of modality you decide to use or your coach decides to use for those missed sessions. But it's a little easier to distract yourself with, it's a little easier to recover from. So that kind of leads me to still keep some miss in. Those things in particular really tend to help and really tend to make miss a good decision for other times during your prep, or a good decision to kind of, like I said, fill in those gaps. So I say all that to say they both definitely have their place in a dieting phase if you're to the point where it's necessary to add cardio in. I definitely don't see one or the other as being the best, or one or the other being necessary and one being unnecessary. I definitely think they both have a place. Again, they both have their benefits. If I'm just starting to add cardio into a plan, I may base it off of what the person's schedule is like. If your schedule is very busy, you have a pretty demanding corporate job or something like that, I may tend to go with HIIT sessions initially, just to try to help with scheduling as much as I can. It's a little bit easier to fit in 8 to 12 minutes of HIIT versus 30 or 45 minutes of miss. So at first, if I can apply it to their schedule and really work around their schedule, I may do that. Or if it's a little bit more relaxed of a job, or a job that you can kind of do your own hours, then miss might be my first go-to, and then I'll kind of go from there. But you know, you definitely can choose based on your schedule, but there comes a point where if you're doing a pretty substantial amount of cardio, it's probably going to benefit you to mix the two and use a little bit of both, at least in your week, just to really consider maximizing your recovery and not just thinking about total caloric output. Because another thing to consider is if you're trying to do only HIIT just because you know it's so effective and you're going to burn so many calories and save so much time, at some point you're going to hit a level of fatigue that's pretty hard to recover from each week. So your weightlifting sessions are going to start getting impaired. The cardio itself, you're not going to be able to push yourself as hard each session, which of course is going to result in less caloric output in the first place. You're going to start feeling even more cranky, even more exhausted during your day-to-day, just from the recovery aspect. So you know, keeping that in mind and really finding that balance, or working with a coach that can help you find the correct balance of HIIT and miss, is going to really help you, and help you to not only have an effective diet, but having a diet that you can actually adhere to, a training program and a cardio session program that you can adhere to and actually enjoy, and not completely hate the process by the end of it because you've spun your wheels and burnt yourself out a little bit too much for the sake of just relying on the science and what caloric output each session will give. If that clears that up a little bit. Like I said, it really depends on the circumstances, on how much of each I use. Someone with a lot more muscle mass, I may be able to get away with HIIT a little bit more, whereas someone that doesn't have quite as much muscle mass, it may be a little bit easier to rely a little bit more on miss, just because some of the bigger, more muscular people tend to be able to recover a little bit better, to be able to handle a little bit more overall training volume by the HIIT sessions versus someone else. Someone like myself, I may use 2 or 3 HIIT sessions, and then after that I'll probably start doing more miss, just because, like I said, it can be a little bit more better to recover from depending on how you do your cardio. So someone like me that is really trying to gain as much size as possible in the off season and then keep it when I'm dieting, that's obviously something I consider as well. One other thing I would say, whether you're doing HIIT or miss, without going on a completely different topic, the mode of your cardio is definitely going to decide how well you recover from your cardio. So you could do anything from jogging to a row machine to a Jacob's ladder to jump rope to you name it, spin bike, which is what this is going to segue into. With my clients, if I can give them any suggestions on cardio, on the type of cardio they do as far as the mode, spin bikes and recumbent bikes are definitely my top choice. There's a fair amount of research on this as well, showing that by cycling or doing spin bikes, you essentially reduce the eccentric muscle damage in the hamstrings compared to if you're running and having to constantly absorb the shock and brace yourself every time your foot's coming down and every time you're hitting a step or whatever the case might be. So doing a lot of biking as your cardio can really help to reduce the total muscle damage in your legs created by the cardio sessions. And of course that's going to be great for maintaining muscle mass throughout your diet, keeping your legs fresh for your weightlifting sessions so you can lift heavy and keep more muscle mass while you're dieting. And just overall, you're probably going to notice a difference, especially if you're someone that does a lot of running, a lot of high impact cardio. By switching at least some of yours to a spin bike or a recumbent bike, you're probably going to notice a physically, mentally noticeable difference in your recovery from week to week, especially as the diet progresses. And so I'll have a lot of my clients, especially doing HIIT, I'll have a lot of my clients use a spin bike or a recumbent bike for that very reason, to try to keep their legs fresh as well as I can during the week while we're dieting, while we're continuing to chip away and increase that caloric deficit. And like I said, just to stay a little fresher, feel a little bit better, lift a little bit harder, and just in general, it tends to really have a lot of positive benefits. So if I were doing my own, or I was giving a suggestion to a client, at the end of the day, I want every client that I work with to do the cardio they enjoy. Cardio you enjoy is going to be a lot easier to keep up with and to adhere to than something you hate. So at the end of the day, if my clients really, really enjoy a certain kind of cardio, I'll pick that every single time. But if I have clients that are pretty open to suggestions, I'll definitely have them do a spin bike or a recumbent bike as much as they are willing to, or as much as they're able to. Again, because when it comes to recovery, it tends to have a much better effect than some of these other forms of cardio, like jogging or something along those lines. But yeah, guys, that's kind of all the points that I wanted to hit. Again, there's just a lot of confusion about HIIT versus miss, especially a lot of people that are just starting to really take their diet seriously and really get into programming. You hear a lot about both, and people that are fans of one but not the other, so it's a little hard to kind of decipher it all and decide what's best for you. So I just wanted to give a brief explanation of why I like both, when I might implement those with my clients, and then of course some suggestions on what to consider as far as doing that cardio and what kind of mode of cardio you're going to do while you're doing your HIIT or your miss. But we just want to give you guys an idea. Like I said, this is episode 4. The feedback on these has continued to grow, which has been amazing. As I say after every video, if you guys ever have any topics that you want us to cover, if you have any questions about what we did cover that you would like a little bit more in-depth information on, or you would like to just talk to me more about, please feel free to comment below, email me, email Christina. We're all happy to help. We're both excited about the series, excited about the feedback we've gotten, and definitely excited about the future and the rest of her contest prep and some of the other videos that we have coming out. But once again, thank you guys for checking these out, and I look forward to seeing more videos or doing more videos for you guys in the future, and thanks again.
Alright guys, so I hope that you enjoyed listening to Andrew and you have a better understanding of what HIIT versus miss should look like and how to incorporate that into your own training program. So like Andrew talked about before, I used to, and actually you saw a little clip of me doing some HIIT cardio on the treadmill. I have switched over to incorporating more of the spin bike into my routine, and I have loved it. And I was getting shin splints before, and the treadmill was really taking a toll on my body. So I feel like HIIT sprints, I'm still able to keep up the intensity on the bike versus the treadmill. And for miss cardio, my two favorite are either the Stairmaster or just going on an incline walk on the treadmill. So there you guys have it. As always, if you have any topics that you'd like us to cover, please comment below and let us know. Give it a thumbs up if you like the video, and please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And I'm really excited for the next episode, and until then, bye guys.